Hey guys, it's Brad again. Thanks for checking in. This is another video in our investor tactics. You definitely need to watch these videos before you accept an offer from any investor on your house. The next one I want to talk about is called the extender. Okay, so the extender is typically a newer investor. Most likely they're what's called a wholesaler. We wholesale a lot of properties that maybe don't fit our criteria, and we keep some of them as rentals and we flip some of them, and whatever kind of doesn't meet our rental or our flip criteria, we wholesale them out. So I have nothing against wholesaling. It's a pretty common thing in the industry. At the end of the day, what matters is what you negotiated on your offer. If they offered you, let's say $100,000, did they close and they give you $100,000? Did they do what they agreed on? And sometimes maybe they'll sell that house to another investor for $105,000 or $110,000 or something like that. They just resell it to another investor. They'll usually, you know, if we're going to wholesale, we're going to close and we're going to buy the house from you, and then we'll sell it after the fact and not have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about that. That's all that. What happens after the fact is you're gone. You already got your check. You got your money. You've got what was agreed on. But there are other people, there's newer wholesalers out there that are gonna tie you up in a contract for a long period of time. I've even seen some of them do 90-day contracts. That's crazy, 90 days? Someone who says, oh, we pay cash and close fast, and then they write you a contract for 90 days? That's absurd. What they're doing is they're not sure about that deal, and they're trying to give themselves enough time where they can sell that deal and sell that house to someone else for a higher price, and they can make their difference. Okay, so when you've got someone, maybe they just do a 15-day, and maybe they want to extend the contract. Occasionally we've had to extend a contract because of title issues. A lot of times is what happens, like, oh, we're waiting on a document from a lot of times it's in probate situations where we need a death certificate from another relative who died, or we need something to finish out the probate. That's typically when we have to extend closings, because probate is very unpredictable. We buy a lot of inherited houses, and sometimes it's just a mess and it takes longer. But otherwise, we're going to close when we say we're going to close. A lot of times we can close sooner. We just actually, we had a lady that we're buying her house in a few weeks, and she wanted to actually close pretty far out because she was getting married and her wedding was on this day, and she wanted about 2 weeks to be able to move out of the house, and she was moving in with her husband, and they were actually moving out of state to another state. So there was a lot of things up in the air, and she needed to make sure she was safe. So we set the closing date out at the beginning of October, which was pretty far out, a lot further than we typically do. I mean, we close things sometimes as fast as 10 days. On average, we're about 3 weeks, but that's usually from the seller's request to be 3 weeks out, because they need enough time to find a new place to live or move or whatever. So, but this particular instance, we told her the other day, we said, well, hey, you probably need this money for your wedding, okay? And you probably, you're going to be out of town for your honeymoon the weekend. Why don't we do the closing before your wedding? And what we'll do is we'll just give you a temporary occupancy for a couple weeks, and we'll let you stay in the house. Now, whenever we do a temporary occupancy, we hold back some of the closing proceeds. The closing attorney holds back some of that money in their account, just to make sure that the seller that sells to us moves out when they say they're going to move out. And if they agree to the holdback, we'll hold back a portion of the funds. So when they close, they'll get most of their money, and then the closing attorney holds back the rest. And then as soon as they move out and they give us the keys and say, all right, we're out, then we say, okay, cool, you're out, thanks for the keys. And then boom, we release the remaining amount of money, and that gets wire transferred to them, and they get the rest of their money, and everybody's happy. So we did that in this case. We said, why don't we just do the closing before your wedding? That way you've got some cash for your honeymoon to spend. I'm sure you're going to want to enjoy your honeymoon. And then that way when you get back, you don't have to worry about, am I going to have enough time to move out? Should we do closing on this day? Should we move closing? So we accommodated her schedule. And so anyways, that was something we do. We actually brought the closing forward in that case. But the extender here, I want to get back to that. Sometimes I digress a little bit. I'm a little ADD. So The extender. This is somebody who's going to come back and they're going to keep extending the closing date. And you know why they're going to keep extending the closing date out? Is because they can't find a buyer to buy it from them. And the reason they did is probably because they offered you too much money for your house, and nobody that they're trying to sell the house to, it's not a deal and it doesn't make sense to anyone. And an investor is not going to buy your house unless it's a deal. They're all in the business to make money. And if they're not going to make money on the deal, they will not buy it. As investors, we don't do this from an emotional perspective. Every transaction is based off of, can I make money on this deal? If I can't, I don't do it. If I can make money, great. And then now that I can make money, well, how much money does the seller need and how much money do I need? Can we meet somewhere in the middle where everyone walks away from the closing table happy? That's how we like to do business. Is I want you, the seller, to walk away from the closing table and feel like this was a great transaction and you got what you wanted and I got what I wanted and it was a win-win for everybody. That's how we like to make transactions. The extender is not going to do that for you. The extender is going to keep moving the closing date out. He's going to put it here, and then he's going to extend it out here, and then he's going to extend it out here, because he can't sell it, he can't sell it, he can't sell it. And then what happens when he gets all the way down here and he can't sell it? You know what he's going to do? He's going to bail. He's going to bail on the contract. And he's going to walk away, and he drug you all along, and he wasted 60 days of your time, and he bailed out on the contract because he couldn't find anybody to buy it. That's pretty crappy. That's real crappy. And he just wasted your time. And during that time period, during that 60 days, you probably got called and got letters by, multiple other investors offering you money, and you had to turn them down because you said, sorry, I already have a contract with this guy and he promised me, $15,000 more than what you're offering me, and I'm going to go with him, and he just wasted your time. And now you got to go back, and a lot of times you're embarrassed and you don't want to go back and ask, the other investors if they're still interested in buying. So that's what happens in this situation. So that's called the extender.